Hey, this is John. Welcome to this Unreal Engine tutorial. This is going to be a how to add AI to a game that you've created. I'm going to use the first-person template for my project. You should use the first-person template if you're going to follow along with this. You're not restricted to using the first-person template. You can add this code into any Unreal project. So for this project, though, we're going to set up with a first-person template with starter content, and then we're going to cover these subjects that you can see here. Also, I want to point out that in my blueprint editor, you're going to see that my blueprints look a little bit different. If you have not purchased this electronic nodes add-on, I love this thing. I have no affiliation with it whatsoever, just a very satisfied customer. I think you will find that it makes your blueprints a lot easier to read and follow along with. There's a couple examples here on the Unreal Marketplace, and then you'll see that in action in my code. All right, so with that said, we're in the first-person template that we've set up with starter content. We're going to go in the content browser, click the Show or Hide Sources panel, and we're going to click on the content folder, the top level one, which we could get to here as well. We're going to right-click and select New Folder, and we're going to call that Blueprints. And we also need to bring in some content from the third-person template, so you're going to click on the green Add New. Go to Add Feature or Content Pack, and from there in the blueprint feature you want to select third person, click Add to Project and close that. We're going to delete the third person BP and third person folder that came in. We don't need those, so I'm just going to select those, hit delete, and force the deletion of those assets. The only thing that we needed out of there was the mannequin, the third person anim BP, and the animations, as well as the character that comes along with that, the skeletal mesh. All right, so in our blueprints folder, we're going to right click and we're going to select blueprint class. And from the pick parent class, we want to pick a character because our character is going to be possessed by an AI and walk around. We'll call that BP underscore enemy character and press enter to open the blueprint editor for that. I'm going to close out my plugins window. You'll see that there is a skeletal mesh that's inherited with that. We're going to go over to the mesh section, skeletal mesh, and select the SK mannequin. And then we need to reposition that and rotate it. So we're going to type -90 on the Z-axis for the location and -90 for the rotation. And finally, we need to set its animation blueprint. So in the anim class, we're going to find the third person anim BP, and also something I left out of my other video, by the way, we can change its material. So I'm going to click on the material for that, and I'm going to type in metal, and I will make that a metallic color. All right, so with that said, I'm going to click compile and save, and you'll see that we can drag and drop that enemy in, and it is now a character in our game facing the incorrect direction, but we're going to add code to make it chase us. So the code to have it come and chase us is really straightforward. In the event graph, I'm going to box select these two lower events, get rid of them. We only need begin play. And I'm going to right click and add a custom event, and I'm going to call that chase player. And from there, I'm going to do a simple, spelled correctly, move to actor. And we need to have the controller. So we're going to type get controller for this character and hook that up. And the goal is going to be the player character. And we're going to hook that up. Now, to make the this actual event get fired, what we're going to do is set up a timer in the begin play event for the character. So I'm going to timer by event, set timer by event, what I'm looking for, and I'm going to hook up the chase player event as the event that fires. I'm going to fire that off every 1 second, and I'm going to click true on looping, and I will click compile and save. Now, important safety tip, always go back and add your nav mesh nav mesh bounds. Otherwise, when you click play, the character isn't going to chase after you, even though it is working correctly. So that is found in the volumes, and nav mesh bounds is what you're looking for. You're going to drag that in. I like to drop it just a little bit below the floor. I'm going to scale that to cover the entire level. Let's see, like that. Move that over. Let's see if I got that. You can press P while you are editing the nav mesh bounds, and you can see the area that the character is going to navigate in, the AI character. So you can leave little safe areas if you like, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have that cover the entire level, like so. Trying to get that. There we go. Boom. Okay, and I'm going to press P to toggle that because it is distracting. Now, also I forgot to mention, I like to play in a new editor window. So you click the play button, drop down arrow right next to the play button, click new editor window, and there we go. And now he's chasing us. That's great. All right, so I'm going to select that character since we know it works. I'm going to delete it. And the next thing we're going to do is create the spawner that is going to spawn these enemies. So we will right click in the blueprints folder that we created, make a new blueprint class that's going to be based on actor. And I will call that BP underscore enemy spawner. And press enter, go into the blueprints editor. Now there's not going to be much of a visual for this. I'm just going to add an arrow so we know which direction our characters will be spawning in. And we're also going to use that as the location or the transform when we spawn them. So again, this is going to look awful similar. In fact, it's going to be pretty much identical to the code that we saw in the enemy character as far as the timer and setting up a custom event. So we're going to add a custom event, and let's call that, spawn enemy. And from there, we will drag off of that and spawn actor from class. And we will select the BP underscore enemy character that we just created. Now the transform is going to be the arrow. We'll drag the arrow off and type in get world transform and hook that up to the spawn enemy character. We'll do a timer by event again, and this is going to be our spawn enemy event. We're going to loop. I'm going to type in 5 here, and then I'm going to right click on time, promote to a variable, and call that something like time to spawn, and click compile. You'll notice that that took that value of 5 as the default, and then I'm going to click the little eyeball to make that public and also give us the ability to edit that in the editor. So I drag this down and compile and save, and now back in the map I can add an instance of the enemy spawner, and you'll see that the directional arrow shows us which direction they'll be facing in. I'm going to spin that around. If you watch my other video, see I didn't spin it around, but I'm going to spin it around here so that the enemies spawn at that location right there, and there they go. But he did not fall. So they're spawning but not dropping. All right, let's figure that out. Oh, I know exactly what went wrong. So we saw them spawn and not drop down. That's because I left off one very important setting. In the class defaults, you need to go into the auto possess AI. So that's class defaults in the enemy character in the tool ribbon. And notice auto possess AI is set when they're placed in world, but not when they're spawned. So I have to change that setting to placed in world or spawned. Back in, and they're going to spawn, and there they go. Okay, so they were not getting possessed by an enemy AI, and there we go. So we've got multiple enemies chasing us, and now just to show why we exposed that time to spawn variable, I'm going to make another spawner. So I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and drag off of that, and you'll notice that the time to spawn variable is editable here. So I'll make that 2 seconds for this one, and click play. And you'll see that the one over here spawns enemies much faster. And then this one's every 5 seconds. So I'm going to end up with a whole bunch of characters chasing me around in this game. All right, so for a later video, we're going to add the ability for the projectile to quote-unquote interact with our enemies that are chasing us around. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe.